Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So this video I will be telling you how to pass the NBCOT exam like a boss. Okay, so if you want to know how I pass the test, stay tuned. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you guys about the most important thing that I feel like it's really important for you guys to know when you're studying for the NBCOT exam. So the first thing that I feel like is really important to remember is that you have to really learn how to take the NBCOT exam, like as far as like the test taking strategies. So this test is kind of set up differently. So for example, you have to kind of know your strengths and your weaknesses. So know the things that you're really good at. So if you're really good at mental health, don't spend a lot of time studying mental health. Focus more on the things that you feel like you're not that great at. Another thing that I also feel like is important to know is that you have to take a lot of practice tests. I feel like that's like the best kept secret. Like, don't waste a lot of time studying like book information or like PDF type of stuff. I think that's more for topics that you are not that great at. Spend a lot more time on like taking practice tests, like different practice tests on Therapy Ad or AOTA or the NBCOT website. At least that's what I did. Another thing that you have to also remember is that you have to ask yourself, what do I need to know as an entry-level OT? I think that's really important to know as you're studying. Like, this test is not meant for you to know all the information as if you have been practicing for a number of years. This test is really to test your generalized idea, like generalized information, things that are important to know once you start practicing. Because as you all know, once you pass the test, you can start, and once you get your license, you can start working independently as an OTR/L. So very generalized information, like when to use PAMs, when like the different precautions that you have to administer with different people. Like if someone just had a hip replacement, you have to know that they're not supposed to be flexing beyond 90 degrees. That's something that's like generalized information, general information that you have to kind of remember. So I think the test is really meant for just an entry-level OT information, entry-level practitioner. What do you need to know in order to be able to practice independently, period. And once you know that information, I think you'll be fine. Okay, so another thing that I put down is that when you're answering the questions, do not overthink it. Each question that you answer, take it as it is. Don't bring in information that's not there. Don't take out anything that's there. Answer the question as it is. Don't do anything extra. Don't do anything more than what it is. Okay, so whatever question that you're going to answer, look at that question and answer. I know for me, I'm a thinker. I think a lot. And so when I was answering some of the questions before I took the test, I was doing a lot of overthinking, and that hurt me, you know, that I was getting a lot of answers wrong because of that, because I was overthinking the questions. Some of the questions are really simple, and then you kind of like overthink yourself, like, is it really that simple? Like, I'm sure it's more complicated than that. And most of the times it's really, really simple questions. So don't overthink it, don't overanalyze it. It's what it is. Okay, all right. Another thing that I have down here is that you have to build your endurance. So this test is a 4-hour test. It's pretty long. And then you start with clinical simulations, and then you move into taking 170 questions. So it's a long time. It takes a lot of time to do it. So I think if you can, try and take a practice test, maybe like take like 3 CSs, and then probably 170 multiple questions, just so you can get used to. Your body is going to get used to you sitting down for that long. Your brain is going to get used to that, and then that way when you do take the road test, you'll be ready for it. So another point that I have down here is that you have to know your diagnosis. I think this is really important to know if you want to pass this test. What do I mean by that? So know that whatever diagnosis that is out there, whether it's stroke, whether it's a heart disease, whether it's autism, whether it's whatever, cancer, whatever the diagnosis is, know what it is, know what it looked like, know how it presents, know what you're supposed to do for it as an OT. So for example, if you have a kid who has autism, I know that each person present differently, and each case is different, and each person may present autism in a different way. However, in the general sense, we know that most kids with autism will have some type of communication problem, or they may or may not have some sensory problem. This is something that's like a generalized information. So this is something that you have to know off the back. Like, okay, if I have a kid with autism, they may or may not have a problem with communication or social skills, for example. So this is something that's like, you have to know for each diagnosis. If someone had a stroke, depending on how serious the stroke is, they may not be able to use one side of their body. So general information will always be right, or it will be more right than wrong. If someone have Parkinson, you're probably going to see that shuffle gait thing. So know your diagnosis, know what they can present and what you can see with each patient, and I think that will definitely help when you take the test. If you had a question on Alzheimer's, you probably know what that looked like, right? Like memory problems and confusion issues. So just keep all of those in mind. Another thing that I feel like is also important to know when you're taking this test is know the anatomy of your diagnosis as well. So know what's going on internally in order to understand what's really going on externally. So if your client has Alzheimer's, yes, you know that they may have some confusion problems, but you really know what's going on internally, what's going on with that patient. I don't know, for me, I think that helped me a lot. Maybe I'm just an overachiever, but I kind of like to know, you know, the neural aspect of things and what's really going on underneath. So that's just me. Another thing is watch as many videos as you can, especially if you are a visual learner and you need to see people talking, or you need to see different things. I did a lot of I watch a lot of different videos on YouTube, and I will leave below like the links to the different videos that I watch, and I may also put it somewhere. Maybe I'll put it right here, of the different YouTube channels that I checked out while I was doing my studying as well, and those definitely helped me a lot. Another thing that I thought was important is that anytime that you have a question, always pick an intervention based on the client's priority, what's important to the client, what's meaningful to the client. Always pick the safest option, and also pick the most comprehensive or the most collaborative option. So for example, some answers are more like A will say one thing, B will say one thing, and then C will have both A and B in it. You know, I don't know if you understand that. So C will be the most comprehensive. It will be more meaningful. It will be the safest. It will be more collaborative effort. So I think that will always be the answer, because it's the most comprehensive. A will be okay, A is safe. Okay, B is meaningful, but C is safe and meaningful. You know what I mean? So it's those much more comprehensive answers always seems to be the answer for me. That's my experience, at least. Okay, so the next point is process of elimination. Process of elimination, as we all know, we all did it while we were in school, to help us pick the answers, especially when the question is something that you probably didn't know. So one thing that I've noticed is that if A and B is saying the same thing but in different ways, more than likely it's not A or B. It has to be a different option. Or if A and B is saying totally opposite of each other, then one may be the answer, or both are not the answers. Those type of test taking strategies also help a lot. So keep that in mind as well. That's a really important one. My next point is do not memorize. I think memorization for this test will not work because this test is not a test that would, like, it's not meant to test like your biology knowledge or your neural knowledge or like what bone is this or what nerve do that. It's not a test like that. It's a all scenario based test. So because of that, you have to be able to apply the information. If you're not able to apply the information that you're studying, then you need to do a lot more studying, or you have to find a tutor or something, because you have to be able to take that information and you have to apply it in a scenario base. Because obviously once you start working, every patient that you have will be different. Every patient will present differently. So you have to learn how to apply that information to different people in different situations, and how to problem solve and use your clinical reasoning in different type of scenarios. So basically, don't memorize. Just try to apply the information, then just sit there and memorize a whole book. I don't think that's going to be helpful for you at all. However, I'm also not saying that your functional anatomy stuff is not important, because it is. If someone has a Colles fracture, you have to know what that is, okay? If someone has a carpal tunnel syndrome, you have to know what that is. You have to know what nerve is affected, what bone is affected, X, Y, and Z. All those things are very important. If you had someone who has a fracture, like a Smith fracture, which is your distal radius fracture, which I think is your palmar displacement, you have to kind of know that information, because you have to know what that looked like, right? If you have a patient who had that kind of fracture, you have to know what it looked like, what bone is affected, X, Y, and Z. If you have someone who has carpal tunnel syndrome, you have to know, okay, the median nerve is affected. So those that's kind of when your anatomy, your functional anatomy stuff kind of comes around and comes into play, and what they may or may not be able to do as far as OT goes. So another thing that I thought was important is that if you're taking more than a minute to answer a question, skip that question and come back to it. I felt like I didn't have enough time when I was taking the test. Like, I felt like I was rushing. Made it a point not to take more than a minute to answer one question. And if I was taking more than a minute, I'll just mark it and go to the next question, because you don't want to sit there and spend like 5 to 10 minutes on one question when you could have been using that time to answer more questions that you do know. So basically, don't waste time on questions that you don't know the answer to. Just mark it and move on, okay? If you do pick an answer and you feel like you're not sure, go back to the question and make sure that your answer matches the question, if that makes sense. If your answer is not solving the problem at hand, then you probably have to reconsider that answer. But don't be going around and changing all your answers, because sometimes, like I said, don't overthink. Overthinking kills. Like, literally, if overthinking can kill, I'll be dead. Like, I'm the worst thinker ever. Like, I think about everything and I overthink things sometimes. So I'm learning to not overthink stuff, and I'm learning to just be like, okay, this is what it is and that's it. And there's nothing more. And I think it's a good practice too, when you're taking this test, to not overthink yourself into picking the wrong answers. Oh, another thing. Try not to spend more than 30 minutes on the first part of the exam, which is the clinical simulation. Do not spend more than 30 minutes on it. So make it as a practice. Go on the AOTA website and sign up for the I think it's the NBCOT practice something. I'll probably put the link below. Sign up for that, because they have a ton of, I think they have about 80 different practice clinical simulations. So use that as your practice guide and try to see if you can take 3 different clinical simulations in 30 minutes. Less than 30 minutes is awesome, but do not spend more than 30 minutes on that. That's a really good point. Another thing is that know your OT process. I can't stress how important this is. Know where you are in the OT process. Are you doing your screening? Are you doing your evaluation? Are you doing your intervention? Are you writing your goals? Are you doing a discharge planning? Wherever you are in the OT process is very important to help you pick the right answer. And also knowing the type of setting that you're in is also important, because what you may be doing in an acute setting could be totally different from what you should be doing in an SNF or in a LTC or in a hospital or in outpatient or in a school setting. So knowing your setting and what your role is as an OT in that particular setting is also very important. Another thing is that know your approach to intervention. I think this is also very important that a lot of people fail to kind of like remember. So for example, you know, all the approaches to intervention. So there is remediation, compensation, prevention, maintaining. I think that also helps to pick the right answer, because sometimes you have a certain question and you kind of think to yourself, if I was doing a remediation with this person, then my answer would probably be different from if I was doing a compensation with this person. And also, if you kind of know if the person has a chronic illness versus if it was an acute illness, then that can kind of help you to pick what kind of approach to intervention that you want to work on with this person. I think that's also very, very critical to remember. The approach to intervention is also very, very, very important. For me, I studied for 4 weeks before I took the test, 8 hours a day. So I usually wake up in the morning, I do 4 hours in the morning. I'll do my clinical simulations in the morning for 4 hours, and then at night I'll do another 4 hours doing like regular practice tests. And what else did I do? So I took all 8 clinical simulations on AOTA. I did all the practice tests in the purple book. I also had therapy ed book. But that will be I'll do another video on like all the different materials that I use, and I'll actually show you guys, I'll give you guys a visual of what I use to study. So that will be my next video. And what else did I use? I had the NBCOT, I had AOTA, I had therapy ed, and I think that was it. The purple book, and that was it. So the day before the test, I kind of relaxed. I didn't do anything too stressful. If you feel like you want to go over any kind of material, I know a lot of people are kind of like against studying before the test or before you take the test. But if you want to study and if you feel like that's going to help you pass the test, why not? Do what makes you happy. Do what's going to be less stressful for you. For me, I did very minimum reviewing before the test because I felt like I wanted to, and I wasn't stressed out about it or anything, so that was fine. So I think the whole point is that do not be stressful before the test. Don't even do that, because that would just make you think differently and you're gonna be all like, you know, crazy about it. So be relaxed, as relaxed as you can possibly be. Another thing that I also did was that I used peppermint oil. I know this is kind of silly, but it really did help me a lot. I love peppermint. I love the way that it kind of like alert you and it kind of like wakes you up. So I put a lot of peppermint on myself before I went in to take the test. I kind of poured some in my shirt and I sniffed it. I sniffed it during the test. I don't know if that's weird, but it helped me. I think it's also important to do whatever helps. If you feel like peppermint oil is what's gonna help you, then do it. If you feel like not studying for a whole week before the test is gonna help you, then do it. Whatever you feel like will be stress-free for you, that will help you relax, whatever it is, do it. And I promise you guys, if you really take the time to watch this video, if you have any other questions, please contact me. I don't care about spending whatever minutes or hours that I have to spend in order to help you out. I can help you out. I can give you the tips and all the things that I did. Don't hesitate to contact me ever. I'm going to make sure that I put all my contact information on this video and also below in the description box. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know if you have any other questions. Bye.